So I've been told that Honda lawnmowers have great engines, however the things around the machine people seem to have problems with. Some people don't like the automatic choke systems, while others don't like the way the carb is installed on them. But one of the worst problems they can have is they sometimes develop a problem where they don't want to roll backwards, which is quite annoying. But today we're going to find out why and then fix the problem. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Honda lawnmower. And the problem is that you can go forward all you want, but it will not roll backwards at all. Unfortunately, the wheels will simply lock up and you just end up dragging the wheels against the grass. And the only reason why the wheels can even spin forward is because of the ratcheting mechanism, and that's the sound you're hearing when you spin them. So what's causing this terrible problem then? Well, the best answer I can give you is that the drive axles are rusting and seizing to their supports. This not only means the mower will not roll backwards, it also means the self-propel won't work either. So the fix for these stuck axles is to take out the transmission and clean off all the rust so they can spin freely in their supports. But to do that, and to make the filming just a little bit easier, we're going to need to put the mower on its back. And to keep from making a huge mess, I'd recommend that we drain out all the fluids from the mower. Now luckily, the mower did not have any gasoline in it, but it did have plenty of oil though. Now you might be wondering why I'm even bothering taking the plastics off the top of the engine. And the reason is pretty simple. The weight of the mower could damage these plastic parts, so we'll take them off instead. I also put the nuts back onto the studs for the recoil to protect the threads on them, but there are other ways to do it. Now it's tough to tell, but the starter cup on the fan is actually supporting the weight of the mower. But on the off chance that the studs make contact, the nuts will protect them. Something else that's interesting is that the belt for the self-propel is no longer on the pulley. Now I'm not sure how this happened, but I'm guessing the belt worked itself off the pulley when it tried to use it. I know I told you that to fix this problem, we need to take the transmission out, but there's one problem. Most people are not going to want to do this because of the amount of work it's going to take. So instead, I'm going to show you a shortcut that's more than 50% faster to do. What we're going to do is slide the transmission over as far as we need to clean off what we can. But if, however, you feel that you'd rather go all the way with the disassembly for a full cleaning, be my guest. Just don't be surprised by how much more time and effort you'll need to do it though. And after cleaning all the excess grease from the gear and the plastic cover, we'll then start taking off all the clips, washers, and spacers from the drive axle. The trickiest part, however, will be taking the gear off without losing the key sitting in the axle. The reason why you have to be careful is because the key sits on a spring which could send it flying. You also need to pay attention to the way the drive gear is oriented, otherwise the gear will not spin the way it's supposed to. And with the drive gear finally out of the way, we then remove the plastic cover and then take off the last couple of pieces of this puzzle. So we found our first real hurdle, which is that this last spacer is stuck. So we'll just carefully use some pliers to rotate it and it should come loose after that. And before we forget and lose it, we'll grab that tiny spring for the key as well. And with that last spacer gone, we can see a small sample of the rust that's causing our problems. So here's a tip. Try using a magnet to help organize all those parts we just took off. The biggest reason why is because it'll make it a whole lot easier to put them back on as well. So next, we're going to move back over to the other side of the mower and do the same process there. I will let you know that I was not planning on recording this side, but doing it will help out if we run into any problems. Now I don't expect any problems on this side, but you know how that works out. Sometimes a bit of insurance never hurts. I will let you know that having a good set of snap ring pliers is key to making this much easier to do. So what we're going to do is not take out the transmission, but instead slide it as far over as we can. Now doing it that way will expose parts of the shaft that were stuck to the supports so we can clean it. We're going to start by spraying brake cleaner on the shaft before applying a thin lubricant, that way it'll hopefully help free it. And as you can see, we're now able to turn the shaft using some locking pliers. Just keep doing this for a while until you think it's ready to be slid over. Even working the height adjuster will help the lubricant work its way into the support. Next, we're going to use a piece of wood and a mallet to help push the drive axle out of the support. And as you can tell, the axle is further in than it was before, and on the other side, it's out further as well. I don't know if you can see it or not, but this part of the axle does not show serious signs of rust, but we are going to clean it anyway. You don't have to use sandpaper, but taking off rust will be tough without it. After the cleaning, we'll then apply a coating of thin lubricant to keep it from rusting while we do the same thing for the other side. And as you can tell, this side is much worse than the other side, but the process is the same. However, this part of the axle isn't bad enough to account for our problem. That means we'll need to shift the transmission again to see the real problem area. Now to help lubricate the supports, I'm going to spray lithium grease on the parts of the axles that I'm getting ready to push back into them. Once the transmission's been shifted back in the other direction, we'll then repeat the same cleaning process as before. But once we get back to the other side, that's when we see all the rust that was holding the axle in place and causing our problem. I'm not exactly sure why only one side rusted this badly while the other side didn't. But if I had to guess, I'd say it was a lack of lubrication from the factory. Metal on metal contact, especially on parts that rub against each other, would benefit from an application of a petroleum-based lube. But after some time, and we're talking about years, a reapplication would be a good idea. I know it looks kind of messy here, but I'd rather have it look like this than have it locked back up again. But here's the best part. If your wheels are not locked up, you can try applying a thin lubricant to the supports to keep this from happening. However, once it starts, it's really tough to prevent it from getting worse unless you keep using the mower. So what that means is that the mower might be able to still roll backwards in the fall before you put it up. However, the wheels could be stuck by the time you get it back out in the spring. And if that does happen, you might end up having to do what we just did to get it to work again. And just as a reminder, make sure that you install the gear back on the right direction. Otherwise, the wheels will free spin in the wrong direction, making the self-propel not work. You're also welcome to use whatever type of grease you want to lubricate the gears. But just be aware that if you have to work on it again, it'll be something you'll have to contend with and it's gonna get messy. Now I like using this lithium grease spray, but a good multi-purpose grease works very well too. I just don't like messing with it. Now since you already saw this process on the other side, we'll just speed through this side. So here's the problem with this shortcut. There's no question that it'll free up the wheels. However, since it's not a full disassembly and cleaning, the results are not going to be 100% either. Depending on how bad the rust was, the improvement could be exceptional or just minor at best. So you might be asking yourself, then why not do it the right way and just take out the transmission for a full cleaning then? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's easier said than done. To do a full cleaning would take a lot more time to do. Now for you, that might not be a big deal, but for me to film that process would take hours more. So yes, if I wasn't filming this process, I'd probably take the transmission out and do it the right way. Next, we'll reinstall the belt back onto the pulley and replace the guard for it. This might have been a good time to replace the drive belt, but we won't know until we get the engine running and test the self-propel. Next, we'll put the wheels back on, flip the mower back over onto those wheels, and then replace the top cover. Unfortunately, we are not going to start the mower just yet, and that's because we still need to go through the carb first. But I do have to let you know that I've heard this engine run before, and it was in great condition too. So here comes the test, and the big question as well. How much have we improved its ability to roll backwards? Well, it's definitely better, that's for sure, and if I had to give it a score, I'd say it's rolling back by about 50% of what it should be. So what does that mean then? It means there's definitely room for improvement, but I'll take this any day over what it was like before. But here's the deal, once we get it working again and we use it a few times, the rollback should improve even more. Unfortunately, we won't be doing that today because this is all we have time to do. But the next time you see it, you'll know what we'll be doing to it. So my question is, if you had to do this repair, would you take the shortcut like I did, or take the much longer road instead? Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.